Balakliia Intensive Care Hospital is located in a pine forest on the outskirts of the city. Russian troops occupied the city on March 2, 2022, setting up their own military hospital there. But later, due to the attacks of the armed forces of Ukraine, it was transported and the medical corps began to be shelled randomly.
There were several missile attacks, as you can see. The building was severely damaged, including the roof. The crossing was already restored. There was a very strong rocket hit into the pediatric ward, and the floor slabs were also damaged.
The staff worked and lived in the hospital until early April 2022. Doctors assisted the residents of Balakliia and treated the wounded. On April 2nd, the Russian invaders drove up the tank and opened fire on the building. A shell flew into the operating room. A patient who had just been operated on was wounded by shrapnel. After that, the doctors decided to evacuate everyone who remained in the hospital for treatment.
The shells flew in here. One broke the patient's brachial artery. A pool of blood emerged. They also hit the girls of 20-25 years old. There was a pregnant girl too. Then the Russian occupiers dragged their soldier into the operating room and operated on him. I looked at those people and cried heavily.
The next day, on April 3rd, late at night, Russian troops burst into the hospital building, fired with assault rifles at the walls, at the ceiling, and all the male doctors were kicked out and placed in a line in the corridor.
At first, they shot us a little here, beat us a little, put us on the ground floor, then interrogated us on why we live so well here, why we have such a good hospital here, how can we live like this, why there are toilets here. They were most interested in how it was possible that there are toilets here. There is a toilet in the ward and also in the office of the head of the department.
The Russian invaders demanded that the doctors leave the hospital building on April 4th. Before the war, more than 600 employees worked here, and when Balakliia was liberated and the reconstruction of the hospital began, the head doctor turned to her staff with a request to return to their jobs. Well, more than 60% of the total number of doctors have already returned, so we'll calculate it, and exactly 70% of the doctors have returned. This is with our outpatient department. That is, in order to do our job, this is enough for us. We can deal with all questions 24/7. 3 of our doctors in the ranks of the armed forces of Ukraine now. We are waiting for our victory, waiting for the return of our colleagues safe and sound. The Russian occupiers not only destroyed the core of the hospital, they also stole almost all the modern equipment, diagnostic, operating equipment. Even a computer tomography was mutilated so poorly that it is not suitable for usage anymore. Medical inventory from Balakliia was found even in neighboring Kupiansk. The head of the Kharkiv Regional Military Administration says for the purchase of the necessary equipment as well as for the reconstruction of the hospital in Balakliia, about 20 million hryvnias, more than $544,000 were spent from the regional budget and the State Reserve Fund.
For this, we partly received equipment from the Ministry of Health on the relevant programs, and CT scan will be received later. The equipment was purchased partly at the expense of the regional budget, and this is just the beginning of our work.
In total, during the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine, more than 300 medical facilities, from rural outpatient clinics to multidisciplinary hospitals, have been damaged in the Kharkiv region. Some of them have already begun to be restored and prepared for opening. Reported by Dana Kolesnik, Natalia Bilokudrya, Andriy Domovy, UATV News.